Hey, this is Devin from Elektron. I'm here today at Guitar Center to show you our analog keys. Analog keys is a 4-voice true analog synthesizer with digital effects and a sophisticated multi-track step sequencer. Looking at the top panel here, we have our step sequencer tracks, and then we have the familiar 16-step pattern sequencer. The big knob here allows you to quickly scroll through the hundreds of presets that come with analog keys. The 10 rotary encoders don't just control every parameter of analog keys, but in performance mode, they also double as macro knobs, controlling multiple parameters at once. This is really important in live performance, so you don't have to go diving into the synth. You can just grab a knob and tweak. Not only can you assign velocity and aftertouch to multiple synth parameters, the multi-directional joystick also allows up to 5 parameters per direction, so it's a powerhouse for expressive playing. You also have transport control for the internal sequencer. A fun and powerful feature of analog keys is multi-map mode. With a single press of a button, I enter into multi-map mode and I can split the keyboard into various zones. Each zone can do things like playing patches or even triggering patterns. Right here on the front panel, we have an instant reload button for kits, sounds, and patterns. So when you're exploring new sounds and new ideas, you never have to be afraid because you can always reload to the previously saved state. Taking a look here at the back panel, you see a lot of connectivity options. We've got headphones, left and right out. We have an individual out for each of the 4 analog voices. With the left and right input on the back of analog keys, you can process external audio either through analog keys digital effects or right through the analog circuitry like filters and overdrive. It's important to know that any instrument plugged into the left and right inputs of analog keys has its own dedicated stereo channels into your DAW, negating the need for an extra audio interface. Analog keys also has 4 assignable CV outputs to control both vintage and modern modular gear. There's even a dedicated step sequencer track for the CV outputs. Of course, there's MIDI in, out, and through, but the out and the through ports also double as DIN sync outputs, so you can synchronize analog keys with pre-MIDI vintage gear without the need for an external sync box. The USB port on analog keys is so much more than a typical USB port found on other synthesizers. Not only can it do standard MIDI clock and MIDI data, it also features multi-channel bi-directional audio streaming, which allows you to send and receive up to 8 channels to and from your DAW. It also features DAW tempo synchronization, so when I hit play on my DAW, analog key starts in sync and stays in sync. The USB connection also allows for total recall. This means that when you're using analog keys with a DAW, every time you save your session, it's going to save a snapshot of all the sounds and patterns you're working on. Lastly, the USB cable also allows for massive amounts of parameter control from your DAW. This is almost impossible with a standard MIDI cable. Whether you're working in a modern DAW production environment or a classic hardware analog setup, analog keys serves as the bridge to integrate both worlds and allow you to focus on making music. So we've talked about analog keys as a standalone hardware instrument. Now let's see what it can do when integrated with a DAW. Everything you're about to see now is available for free as a download from our website, elektron.se. We call this DAW integration scheme Overbridge. The first component of Overbridge is this free utility called the control panel. This shows me which Elektron analog devices I have connected and then which audio streams are available to and from my DAW. You can see here in the DAW that analog keys has each of its voices on its own individual channel. The beauty of Overbridge is that it operates independently of your existing sound card setup, allowing an extra 8 channels of bi-directional audio without putting any more stress on your existing sound card. Every parameter available on analog keys is controllable both from the front panel as well as the software. Analog keys integrate seamlessly into any workflow. The digital effects engine underneath the hood of analog keys sounds amazing and is fully controllable. This includes our wide shift chorus, our saturator delay engine, and our super void reverb. Analog keys comes shipped with hundreds of preset patterns and patches that are already tagged and categorized. The VST plugin includes a handy browser to allow you to quickly access these presets and any sound you save in the future. As you can see, analog keys is a fun and powerful tool that brings together 2 diverse worlds, analog and digital, hardware and software, into one fun and powerful solution. Go check it out at select Guitar Center stores or on guitarcenter.com.